The success of administrative reforms in a country like India depends upon the political will, right? See, 𝐃𝐨𝐰𝐧𝐥𝐨𝐚𝐝 is a scholar. So 𝐃𝐨𝐼𝐷 says that what are administrative reforms, right? They are artificial inducements against resistance. That means none of the civil services system, none of the bureaucracy ever wants to reform. This is called bureaucratic inertia. This is also established culture. So when there is a bureaucratic inertia, the need for reforms are necessary, obviously, but the systems will not try to reform. They want to remain the way they are, right? So obviously to work against a system of power, a system which is working for you, that is the instrument which has been created by you, to work somewhere against its existing orientation is very difficult. Whether you talk about RTI, whether you talk about police reforms, whether you talk about the reforms in terms of the RTI or in terms of this use of technology, digital era governance, right? And whatever is changing the existing state of the affairs, bureaucracy doesn't want it. So administrative reforms meet with internal resistance, first of all. Secondly, the culture, the nature of the administration is not such. It has the tendency to maintain things as it is. Also, any reform is considered as a threat on the existing system. So they react for that. As you know, under RTI, the civil services were not willing to disclose something called the file notings. File notings are the actual process, actual decision-making process of the bureaucrat, how he arrives at the decision. So decisions are here and file notings are here, which is the elaborate process. So they were not willing to disclose that. Fine. That was the actual information that people wanted, that how did you arrive at a decision? Whom did you give the tender, right? It's not important to know you have given the tender or this much money was spent, but why this much money was spent. If you remember, Vinod Rai, the CAG, who was primarily responsible for the decline, obviously, of the Congress and the governments of the Congress, that was primarily because of the coal scam or the 2G spectrum allocation. So he highlighted most of the things. The book that he wrote, Not Just an Accountant, is very popular, though he had inquiries against him only. But he was the one who made a speculation that there is a presumptive loss of 1,76,000 crores, right, revenue of the government. Now, this kind of statement obviously is misplaced. It may not be based on facts, but it is quite true, fine, that somewhere any system that is already existing and that is enjoying the perks of being what it is, it does not want to change. So we need to reform that, right? So to reform that, what do you need? First thing is, obviously, the accountability has to be established. The accountability towards the people, that is enforced through legislature or through the political executive. So what does it require? It requires the will of the legislature. It requires the will of the political system, the council of ministers and the prime minister, and eventually it requires the will of the people. So are you willing to reform your police? No. Are you willing to give greater citizen-centric approach or influence greater citizen-centric approach to the civil services to work for the citizen-centric benefit? No. We want to, right? But they don't want to. So, a citizen charter, see, government has made Right to Public Services Act, fine, 2008. But see, citizen charter law still missing. ERTI is still not very functional. Under the BNS, obviously the change in the law, right? The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and whatever. So the changes which have been introduced, right? There is a provision by which obviously you can, what you can do is you can obviously file cases or you can file grievances against the civil servants in terms of cases of corruption. Earlier, right, if you had to file a case or if you want to highlight the case of corruption, then there was a provision that against any civil servant, If the corruption charges are leveled or corruption charges have to be framed, then there is a need for prior permission from the government. CRPC 198, earlier, I'm not talking now. Prevention of Corruption Act, right? So, prior permission was needed. Competent authority would give the permission. Then they were given the opportunity to be heard. And likewise, so they had a lot of protection, privileges, constitutional protections. They cannot be removed from their position or from their job or from their service unless they are removed by the person or the position that appointed them. So if governor has appointed state civil servant and president has appointed the union civil servant, right, they cannot be removed without the president. Due process of law. Then you have administrative tribunal. So there are a lot of reasons why these people developed a kind of sense of security within the system. They started taking things casually and they formed strong alliances with the political masters. And because of that reason, the issue of accountability emerges. So how we can overcome this, right? Only when there's a strong will to change the laws, there's strong will to create transparency in the system, when the vote bank politics using the bureaucracy as a means gets reduced, when political influence over administration is reduced, right? So how it can be done, that was the question. So we are talking today about a lot of reforms, right? Whistleblowers Protection Act, reforms in the Prevention of Corruption Act, RTI, IPC, CRPC change now, right? Time to change the Police Act, and likewise. So you can give various suggestions. This scheme, that scheme, we are all trying all that now. So